Hello, Jamie back from Inky&Scrappy with my Let's Start Stamping series. So today we're going to do one of those two. I'm thinking we might actually be able to do this one with this one. We'll see how it goes. I had to search high and low for a flower stamp. It's, you know, I got rid of a bunch of mine when I cleaned out my stash, and so I kept a couple, but not a whole lot. So we're going to do, it's a little bit different than coloring today. It's actually ink blending with some stencils. So I have a couple of sets like this. This one, which came from a Heroes Arts kit, that's no longer available. And then I have one that's from, if you go on my past Brewing Up Creativity classes, we did one with a a Tailored Expression stamp. So it was a stamp and then a stencil set. And it just makes, if you're not great at coloring flowers, it's definitely an easier way to do it. It's faster, I think, in my opinion. I would love to watercolor this one as well. I think it's just it's a great watercolor image. And so I'm gonna get started right away with this one. I don't want this video to take 5 hours. So let's see if we can start. So I'm just starting with my big focal image here. Now keep in mind that we're gonna end up cutting this one down. I was gonna say, I cut my Bristol Smooth already, so I can pop that one up. And I don't think this one, oh, we might be able to get it all on an A2 size card front. So I love this one because it's a big image. It takes up the whole A2 card front if that's what you are going for. It's, you know, it's definitely one that will work for making life a little easier when you're coming to cards. This one also has a coordinating die that just kind of cuts the outline of it. So if that's something that you look for. I can't remember when this one is from. I think I did about 6 months of the Hero Arts kits. They're nice if you're starting because they do usually include some ink, little mini ink cubes, sometimes some embellishments. Sometimes they have dies, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have stencils. I think they've switched them since I did it. I know they have different offerings now than they had in the past. And it looks like we're going to end up doing, I think I'm going to end up flipping it because I must have wiggled it. It happens, right? Okay. Alright, let's try it again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Sometimes with the big images, it's harder to get a good crisp impression the first time, and sometimes they wiggle, so keep that in mind. This one is probably not one that I would do with a stamping block because it is fairly big, and the likelihood of it not stamping very great the first time is pretty high. Not gonna lie. I think red rubber would have probably been the way to go with something this size, just because red rubber stamps tend to have a little bit more give and pressure to them. The other thing that you can do with big stamped images like this is put a light foam sheet, like craft foam, underneath them, and that will help get a better impression if you're struggling with it. It's still kind of wiggled, didn't it? Well, you know what? We're just going to go with it. What side looks better? There. Well, we'll go with this one. Such is life. And usually with this one, I do stamp it with VersaFine Onyx Black, and then I end up going with a clear embossing after a while. But since we're not doing embossing yet, I will just, you know, do it this way. So this one comes with, let's go this way, with 5 stencils. So the first one is going to lay down, and this is kind of nice about the Hero Arts kits. They usually lay out the stencils for you and how they're going to look, what your colors are going to be, and you can totally switch this one up. So I'm going to go with the yellow, like an oranger color, brown, and then like a light green, and then a dark green. It kind of shows you, but you can totally do red and a deeper red. You can do some off colors. I know I've done these in like a red one, and it was gorgeous. So for this one, and they do have the little points there, so you can totally line them up if you so choose. Let me do my craft sheet that I'm supposed to use for my classes. Okay. So we're just going to line this one up here, kind of get it where we want it. Now, I think I'm going to actually put a little bit of adhesive on the back and stick it to my mat so it doesn't move because it's smaller than my actual stencil is. Let's find our spot here. Here we go. Now for this, because you probably don't have a magnet mat, Wendy's make art stations. Wendy, I can't say her last name for I don't know. I'm not even going to try to butcher it. She has a magnetic mat that works really well for stenciling. If you love stenciling or you like stenciling or you like the idea of stenciling and you want to give it a go and you like it, you could do something like that. That would be not too horribly priced later on. Now, you see if you have little squares in the corner, I'm just going to come in with, because rubbing alcohol will wipe this off, I'm just going to kind of put some dots on my paper or on my actual mat. These will come off with rubbing alcohol later, so I don't need to worry about them, being stuck there forever. But by doing it that way, you can get it'll be easier to line up your stencils because they have those. Not all brands have that, but the ones that do, it really does come in handy. I know Tailored Expressions has those too. So I'm going to use Fossilized Amber, I think, for this one. I'm just using my Distress Inks mini cubes. I have a couple of different yellows, but I think this one's going to be a deeper, darker yellow. So I'm going to go with that one. Don't worry about the centers. As long as you're doing a darker tone in the center, it won't matter. You won't see it later on. And again, the blending brushes I have here are from Amazon. It's just I think this one was maybe a 12 pack. So they're colored per handle. I don't clean my brushes per se. So if you do, that's totally fine. It's not, I don't know. It's an extra step that I don't feel really needs. The only thing that I would say is if you're going with a super light color to, rub it onto a scratch piece of paper first to kind of clean it off and go from there. So we have our first color on there, and it's not too picky. If it's blotchy, it's okay. Don't worry so much about possibly being blotchy and the other thing. So this is number 2 in my thing. So I'm just going to lift this one up and then see how I can just line up those squares back here, and I think we're good there. It looks like we've got everything in place there. And I'm going to come in with, I think we're going to do Rusty Hinge on this one. So I would go in with an orange. You see how much I use orange in the dye inks. So starting with, you can definitely start lighter and then go darker if that is, if you're like, I don't know if I want to go that dark. Try going a little bit lighter. You can always add more ink and make it darker. So, and these ones I think would be really pretty watercolored. Let me grab some more. So we got our second layer of color on there. And this is when you're going to start to see that it's starting to take, a little bit more character, a little bit. And you don't even have to switch colors. You could definitely go in with Fossilized Amber for your second layer. It's just going to make those colors a little bit deeper because you're going in with a second layer of color on top. I wonder if I had it the right way. I hope I had it the right way. It looks like I did okay. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to see if it was like top up, like flipped the right way, but I think it looked all right. I guess we'll find out when we're all done. For my brown, I think I'm going to go in with, I mean, Walnut Stain or Vintage Photo, even, I'm trying to think the other one, Ground Espresso, which would be really dark, I think would look good on this one as well. I think I would go a lighter hand with that one just because it's going to be super dark. And I'm just going to come in and do those 4, sorry. And you can always lift it up, see if it's dark enough, if you like the blend before you actually remove your stencil. And let's see here. We're going in with this one first. Whoops, there we go. See how I mean? You know, got to make sure it lines up, right? All right, let's find my little tick marks. Lay that down. And then for my green, I have either Forest Moss or Evergreen Bough. I think Forest Moss is going to give me, it's dark, but I think I'm just going to end up going 2 layers of it. So I'm going to go really light-handed first. So I'm going to kind of tap off my brush here, just so I'm not quite, I feel like I'm not quite going to be in there. Maybe not. Okay. I'm going to go fairly light-handed with this one for my first layer. I just don't want to, and you can pick up off of your mat if you are using that placemat. You could definitely do this over another piece of paper. You're just not going to be able to pick up off of it for your ink colors. So I think we're good with that much. And then the final layer, of course, is going to be this one. Let's see here. Making sure I'm flipped the right way. And I think I must have done a paste through this one at one point in time because I got goobers on my stencil. Stencils are kind of fun. There's definitely some more options with stencils than what I'm showing you. There's pastes and those types of things. If you get further along and you like it, those are definitely some things you can do. So because I'm going in with the same color, so I'm sticking with that Forest Moss, I'm just going to come in and kind of go a lot heavier handed. I probably won't need to go as heavy handed as I'm going there, but I want to see some definite variation. So I didn't tap off my brush. I'm just going straight in with that deep dark Forest Moss green color without diluting it out at all. Now the other thing is here, so I have those brown centers. You could go over it with the green. It's going to layer it on top and give you a little bit darker look. Well, we can try it. I don't know if I'm not a big green tone brown, but it's really gonna just be a darker tone of brown. You could definitely come in with your brown and hit it again with either, I would say, like Ground Espresso would be a good one, like a deeper, darker brown to go over the top. But we'll go with the green because that's what the stencil guide says. And it does. It gives it a darker hue. You're not really going to see it. But so it makes pretty quick work of a fairly big stamp, right? So it's kind of nice in that respect. And so let me move those out of the way here. And I'm going to bring in, I just keep rubbing alcohol in a little spray bottle. It makes cleanup a lot faster. And I don't have to wait for some dry time. Okay, so we have our image colored fairly quickly. It took us about 15 minutes to get it from start to finish here. It probably would have taken me a good hour to color it by hand with alcohol markers and or the other. So I am going to grab my trimmer and I have to switch out the battery pack. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have kind of my layout. I think I'm going to use the top one. I haven't used this one yet. It's very similar to the bottom one. You can definitely just do those 3 with a strip on the bottom. But I'm thinking I can get away with this one because my image is large enough that I can cut it down to size for this one. So I'm going to do the 3. So I need 6 squares that are 1.5 by 1.5. So kind of keeping in mind that, let's trim it. So I need 3 inches, right? For sure. So I'm pretty sure we're good there. So I'm just going to come in here. I don't want to cut all of my white space off, but I'm going to kind of trim it down so I kind of know where I'm going to be at overall on this one. And of course, my sticky is still on the back. So it's going to stick and cause me issues, but we'll deal with it. All right. So let's see. So keep in mind when we're framing this one in, I'm trying to think if I have a square. This one's going to be too big. It's the closest one I can grab. But so this one's like 2 inches, right? So thinking we're only going to use about this much of it, right? So kind of keep in mind that you can go here with it. Possibly you could definitely, you know, switch up, do it different directions and different ways. This is where a die cut really comes in handy for cutting squares out of, you know, a partial, so making partial die cuts or partial image or the full image. How do I say this? I don't want the full image. I want kind of a partial of the image, so it's not going to actually be the full thing. So let's go here. Let's go 1.5 inches. I'm thinking I can get what I need. All right, so I'm going to start with this half first. And I'm kind of looking at, like, this is going to be a really cute 1.5 inch chunk. So let's go. My paper is 5.5, so 4 is going to give me 1.5 inches. So here's 1 square that's going to work on my card front. Let's see if I can zoom this out just a little bit without losing too much. There we go. Okay, so I have 1.5 inches there. Do I want to go? I kind of like the white space, and so I'm going to go here, and then I'm just going to come this way, flip it to get my 1.5 inches. And let's see what I get from this one. So kind of using my cutter as my view or vantage point. So this one I'm going to get the leaf kind of in the middle. The other way the leaf would be definitely on the outside here. So I think I'm going to do this one because I think it's just kind of a fun angle. It's kind of like zooming in, when you zoom in on a flower and you take, and I don't, you know, if I don't end up using it, I don't end up using it. But the other one would have been more like that, which would have been pretty too. I'll cut those off to the side. And now we have this one. So I have to kind of decide what I want my images to kind of, so I can get the leaves on this one if I want. I could go just with a little bit of a leaf on there and kind of cut it down. I could cut part of it out and go that route. I think I want this one this way. So I'm going to cut 1.5 inches this way first. Is that going to be too much white space? I guess we'll find out. 1.5 inches that way, or 1.5 inches this way. I kind of like this, but without all of that. So I'm going to trim that down a little bit and then go this way. So I get some greenery on there, but it's mostly flower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inch and a half this way. And 1.5 inches. I want one that's just all flower. I think that'll be pretty. And do 1.5 inches here. Or if you do 1.5 inches this way, let's do 1.5 inches this way. Now, do I want all flower on this one with a little bit of green? I can go this way and get a little more green. Thinking I'm probably going to want a little more green, so let's go. I'm going to cut this one at 2 and then kind of decide from here. So you see I have green on this side and I kind of have white. I'm going to leave this one until I'm done. I don't know. Let's see. 1, 2, so I have 1, I think this one, this one. This one, this one. I think this one needs to go here and this one needs to go up here. I'm thinking more green. It's green. Okay. Okay, so I butchered my flowers, right? Okay, so we have 6 little squares here. Now, I haven't decided, I don't want to put it on white because I have that white space, right? So I'm thinking of bringing in either a light brown. I think the darker brown will go. The other thing I could bring in, you could do like a contrasting blue color would be really pretty to go with that one. But I think I'm going to go this way. 5.5. Actually, let's do 5 1/4 by 4. And then we're going to mount this onto my card front to get that 4 1/4 by 5.5. So it's a regular sheet of paper scored in, cut in half, scored in half again, so you get your top folding A2 size card. So once I have this here, I'm going to bring those here, and I can start assembling. So I'm bringing in, this is just a Woodgrain cardstock from MFT, or my favorite things. It's a 6x6 paper pad. There's plenty of Woodgrain cardstocks out there if you like them. I just picked up a gorgeous, like, I think it's called like beechwood or something. I don't know. It's absolutely got gorgeous colors in it, but they're all Woodgrain. I love Woodgrain. Okay, so I have that put together on there. And now I just have to kind of figure out my placement on my flowers. I kind of want the white space to be pointed towards the outside, kind of giving that illusion of that full flower. Now, keep in mind, I could have taken that image and cut it into my card front size and then chopped it into 6, right? And then you would have had, your image would have been kind of seamless, but you could have brought space in between them. So that's kind of what this is, but it's actually just, you know, like kind of close-ups. Let's see here. We'll go this way, this way, this way, and this way. I think this one and this one need to get switched. I'm just looking at white space at this point. I kind of like the white space to kind of be even. Like the bigger white spaces are going to be on my corners, and then the 2 fuller paneled ones are going to be in the middle. It's all just kind of your eye for design, or how you feel the design should flow. And then I'm just going to give let's see. Is that going to be, yeah. So I usually start on a corner and work my way to the 4 corners and then kind of line up that middle one to make the middle one work for my distance, you know, because I measure. I don't measure anything. Well, okay, I do once in a while, but it's really not my normal creative style. So just keeping in mind that I want to kind of have enough room. Let's see, this one goes here. Okay, a ruler might come in handy at this point, or a scrap piece of paper. Okay, well, okay, a straight scrap piece of paper. Let's go down just a little bit here. I don't want it to be totally wonky. And let's pull in this one. I got my gooby fingers. And then I can do, this is going to drive me nuts. I'm just going to bring in a piece of tape, Scotch tape, to hold it closed so we can work with it a little bit easier, right? Okay. And so I probably could have pulled in my outside ones a little bit more than I did, but it'll be all right. I'm definitely not lined up. So there we kind of have that whole basis of those 6 little squares that kind of bring up the fuller or bigger image. You could definitely mat each one. I think that would be pretty. The other thing would be to go around the outline. I don't know if this is going to be light enough blue. We'll see. So to go around and just kind of give it a blue or gray edge to it, so it doesn't look like it's just stark white on the side here. And because I did this one in that alcohol-friendly ink, I'm not worried about going in with this marker and going over the top of any of it. I'll try to avoid the actual ink because that's water reactive, because it's a distress ink. And so getting it wet is going to cause, you know, a little bit of issues. You might get some ink transfer onto your nib. If that does happen, just take your nib and kind of clean it off on a scratch piece of paper until you get your color back to that straight blue that it started as. I think that's great there. Okay. And you could definitely do this part before you get it on your card front. It was kind of an afterthought. I thought about it earlier, but I decided against it. But this way it just kind of gives you a little bit. But you could definitely fill in the rest of that with that blue to kind of give it some space. And I might do that yet. We'll see. You know, after the fact. But so for that sentiment part, I'm probably going to go and find a little bit longer piece of paper. I think I want it to measure in between here and there. So let's see if I have a ruler here. Okay, so this one's a 0 point in the center. So from here to kind of here. So about 5 inches is the spread, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inches is the spread of my center piece there from one end to the other. And so I want a piece of cardstock that's going to be a full inch or a full 5. Let's see here. This one going to be close, yeah. And color wise, I went with the orange because I think it's going to be a bright enough color, not too bright, not too dark that I need to go with an embossed sentiment, but the black is going to show up on it, but it's still going to have And I probably should have measured the other way too, huh? So this way I have about, yeah. So I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch here. That's my full, oh, this one is not square. Okay. Good to know, right? So this one is 6 inches. So if I go to 5.5, don't worry about that little stain. That's going to give me a 1/2 inch. And then this way, I'm going to cut down to 5. Okay. So now we have kind of that centered strip in there where you can put your sentiment on it. It can just be a decorative piece. You don't have to put a sentiment on it. Let's see what sentiments. Here comes the sun. You could also just do this as like a decorative strip and then do your sentiment kind of in, make a little bit more room there, and you could have done a thank you here or a thank you there. If I'd have had a little bit more, hello there would fit right there on that one. Let's see here. Here comes the sun, I think is what we're going to work with on this one. Let's bring back in that stamping platform. And I'm going to go this route with it just because I still have my other stamp on there. I would definitely probably go the other direction. Not going to lie. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this one and hope for the best. Let's see here. If I go this way, I can kind of see where I'm at. I tend to finger measure. So, you know, distance, hopefully my fingers are about the same width. And then making sure that's butt up against there. And see here, it says here, and like the here comes the is all on that line. That'll work perfectly, or as long as my piece of paper stays put. Okay, and then I need my black ink. For this one, I am going to bring in that VersaFine Onyx Black just because I want it to stamp well the first time. I don't want to have to kind of mess with it. It's my favorite for stamping sentiments. It does take a little bit of time to dry, so try not to rub your finger over the top of it. You will smudge it. How do you know this? I do it all the time. I smudge it all the time. Okay, so here comes the sun. And I don't think we're going to flag the ends. I kind of just like that, the box look to it. It kind of just completes that whole look. You could definitely pop this one up. You could have popped up any one of those squares. You could have done all of them, but I would have probably just picked one on the top, maybe one on the top and two on the bottom, or two on the top, one on the bottom, or one and one. Or just one. Maybe I'd have taken my favorite one and popped that one up and gone that route. So here's this one. So to dress this one up, I would say if you have glitter, go ahead and do some glitter maybe on the center parts there, kind of where your darker pieces are. If you have diamond dots, like leftover pieces of diamond dots, those work. I tend to do that one a lot. I have some brown ones, but sequences work really well for that. You could do some little brown hearts on there. You could use some, using like a glitter gel pen would work on those. I'm going to bring in, I think these brown ones are going to match pretty good. So I'm just going to bring in a couple of diamond dots. So if you have other crafts that you do, I don't really do diamond dots. I think I've done a couple. They're kind of fun. It's something that I can do when I don't want to make cards. But there's always leftovers in the kit. And so I like to save my leftovers. And then I use them in card making. So I use them in shaker style cards and those types of things. Let me grab my pick stick. So this is a Crystal Quintana. This one is from Studio Katia. They do have them on Amazon as well if it's something that you're looking for. And they're just, I think on Amazon they're like jewel picker or a nail art tool. And so it's just a wax end on one end and then kind of like a, I don't know, a poker on the other. It's not really a poker because it's hollow, but it's like a pusher. So you can kind of push things around. So my brown kind of blends in there. I think you'll see it better when they dry. Let's flip these. I don't want to turn today. The other thing, like you can, like the diamond dots have the little, I'm not good with their jewel picker thingy, so that's why I tend to go with my jewel picker thingy. Let's go here. I want to do some not on the brown. I think they'll show up a little bit better. So if you have glossy accents, you could do drops of glossy accents to look like rain or water drops or dew drops. There's so many options when it comes to embellishments. So it's not a lot, but it's just a little bit. They just add a little bit of bling to it. You could probably do a couple on there if you wanted to. I think if I would do them on there, I would probably go with a lighter color or glittery. Okay, so here comes the sun. And then it's just, so this one was fairly quick and fairly easy, under an hour. And I really think that stamp would have been, but the flowers would be gorgeous. If you just only have one flower stamp, like a big flower, and you want to do the corners of it or parts, different parts of it, you can get the same look with one floral image or maybe two floral images, and you just kind of go from there. So there is our completed card for today. So, you know, we're just still continuing on with that kind of the little mini squares set, and we're going from there. So I hope you enjoyed this one and keep getting inky. Bye. Okay, I'm back. We need to talk card insides because we really haven't talked card insides, have we? So I have, this one is done. It's still wet on the front, so I'm going to be a little bit careful here. But I like to kind of bring my outside inside. Not totally, not all the time, but sometimes it's nice to kind of just bring in a little bit of the outside into the inside. Like last week's card with the unicorn, I'd have probably stamped a unicorn on the inside. I don't think I actually finished that one on the inside yet because I don't know what I'm going to use it for. But a lot of times I like to, you know, finish the inside and make it kind of match the outside. Not totally, but a little bit. So this one. And another thing, I really hate writing on cards. I'm not going to lie, it's not my favorite thing to do. I never know what to write, so if I have to actually write something, I like just making life a little bit easier and stamping it and calling it good. So all I have to do is sign it, right? So for this one, I'm going to bring in the rusty hinge, and we've talked about stamping with distress inks. It's not the greatest thing to do. They don't stamp the greatest. So you usually end up doing multiple stampings of them. Keep this in mind. Now, you see I got a little bit of ink on the bottom. That's fine. I'm actually going to come in with that fossilized amber. Let me clean off where I got that orange on this one. So I'm just going to come in, and you can't see it because I'm off screen, right? Okay. So for this one, I'm just going to kind of come in and just kind of tap it lightly. I don't need the whole thing inked. I just kind of want to hit the peaks a little bit here. And this would be really pretty on the top of the card, but I should have done it before I actually ended up putting my card base on there. So keep that in mind as well. If you want to do, you know, the top where you can fold it, you can also ink it and, you know, kind of play with it. Where did I go with the rusty hinge. So I'm just going to come in with that rusty hinge over the top, and I'm just going to tap it in a couple of places. I'm going to take my clean cloth here and just kind of blot off a little bit. I don't want it to be full. I just want to give it a little bit of some color variation there. So by taking, you know, your ink, stamping your lighter color first, coming back with your darker color, and then kind of taking your rag and just kind of tapping it off a little bit, you're going to get a lighter version of it, but it's still going to add some color and some interest to it. And it's light enough that I can write over the top. It's not too dark. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. I would have probably put this one towards the top if I wouldn't have had my card front still being wet when I did this. But it's a nice way to bring in the front of your card into the inside of the card. And so you get the sunshine on the sunflowers on the outside, and then you get a little bit of a hint of that on the inside. So there's my, you know, extra tip today, because yeah, I know we haven't hit on the inside, but I like to do that on the insides of mine, kind of bring a little bit of the outside onto the inside. Like I say, I tend to do a lot of images, and sometimes I don't use them all, so I will make little mini scenes on the inside. That's kind of, or just adding a stamped unicorn on the inside would work as well. Or maybe with last week's card, taking the little fairies and stamping the fairies around my inside sentiment would bring that fairy from the front of the card into the card, and it just kind of adds to that whole, it looks like you spent a lot of time on it, but it really doesn't have to take a lot of time to do that. It took me 3 minutes to explain it to you and do the whole thing. So that's kind of one of those, that's kind of a fun little thing to add to the inside of your card. All right, bye. For real this time, I promise.